I never expected to feel like a stranger at my own brother's birthday party. But I guess I should have seen it coming. My name's Ryan. I'm 34 years old, living in Modesto, California. I've worked in auto logistics since I was 20, climbing my way up from loading bays to department lead. I don't say that to brag, just to say, I've always handled my business. My family? That's another story. It was Ethan's 25th birthday. My younger brother. The party was at our parents' house. Backyard lights strung across the fence, Costco cake on the table, and a pile of gag gifts already forming in the corner. I showed up a little after 6, holding an envelope I had spent weeks debating whether to give. Inside was a prepaid lease, 6 months for a decent car, clean title, ready to go. Ethan had been bumming rides from friends for months, ever since his old Civic finally gave out. I figured this was something practical, something helpful, something that maybe, just maybe, said, "I'm rooting for you." I waited until he'd opened the last of his novelty socks and joke beer mugs. Then I stepped forward and handed him the envelope. "Happy birthday," I said. Ethan looked at me like I'd handed him homework. He tore it open, glanced at the papers, and blinked once. "What is this?" "Car lease," I said, trying to sound casual. 6 months, all paid. Insurance included. The entire backyard got quiet for half a second. Then Ethan laughed. But not the good kind. The kind that made the hair on my arms stand up. "Wow," he said, holding the papers up like evidence in a trial. "Trying to buy our love again, huh?" The words hung in the air like smoke. A couple of our cousins chuckled. My mom gave a nervous smile. Even my dad shook his head like he was embarrassed for me. Ethan looked around and grinned, proud of himself. "What's next, bro? A house with a bow on it? Or should I just wait for my own reality show?" The laughter swelled, and I felt my face go hot. Not angry, not sad, just hollow. I stepped forward, took the envelope back, and folded it in half. "Good to know," I said, quiet but clear. Nobody stopped me as I walked through the side gate. I got in my car, closed the door, and sat there for a minute, staring at the yellow balloon tied to my wrist. The one a little kid handed me earlier. I had forgotten it was even there. On the drive home, it floated gently against the roof of my car, like a tiny, weightless reminder of how far away I really was. The Sunday dinners started after Mom retired. Every week, same time, same table. Pot roast, mashed potatoes, awkward silences thick enough to choke on. I had skipped the one right after Ethan's party. But this week I showed up. Not because I missed anyone. I came to finish what I started. The second I walked in, the air shifted. My mom was at the stove, stirring something that didn't need stirring. Dad was sitting on the couch, remote in hand but not flipping channels. Ethan was at the table, scrolling on his phone like nothing in the world could touch him. "Hey," I said, closing the door behind me. Ethan didn't look up. "Thought you were done with family events," he muttered. I walked to the dining room, pulled out a chair, and sat down. Guess I had one more in me. Mom brought over the roast, setting it down with more force than necessary. "Let's not make this a whole thing," she said, glancing at me. "It already is," I said. I folded my hands on the table. "I want to talk about what happened last weekend. Actually, I want to talk about a lot of things." Ethan groaned and leaned back in his chair. "Oh my God. Are we doing this?" "Yes," I said. "We are." I looked at my parents first. "I've paid your gas bills since 2019. Your phone plan's been under my name since Dad's work plan got shut down. And Ethan, you remember those court fines for that DUI last year? That was me. You didn't even say thank you." Ethan rolled his eyes. "Nobody asked you to." "Maybe not with words," I said. "But it's funny how the phone always rings when the rent's due or the lights get shut off." Dad cleared his throat. "You're making it sound like we're leeches." I didn't answer that. "I'm not ungrateful," Mom added. "You're twisting things." "No, I'm finally saying them out loud," I said. "For years I thought if I just kept helping, eventually it would mean something. But all I got was more asking, more taking. And when I gave Ethan a car lease, something to help him out. He humiliated me. Ethan didn't flinch, just kept staring at his phone. Again, no one asked for that, he said flatly. I stared at him, waited a beat. You know what? Fine. From now on, I won't give what nobody asked for. Mom looked up, her face stiff. What does that mean? It means I'm done, I said. No more bills. No more favors. No more pretending this is how family works. You're being dramatic, Ethan said, smirking. It's not that serious. I stood up. It is to me. Nobody said a word as I walked to the front door. Not Mom, not Dad, not Ethan. I think they were waiting for me to come back inside and apologize. But I didn't. When I got to my car, I pulled off the family cell plan, canceled the auto pay for their gas account. I didn't feel angry. I felt clean. And for the first time in years, I didn't stay for dessert. It started with a text from Mom. Just a small loan, sweetheart. We're about to lose power. I stared at it for a long time, standing in the middle of my kitchen with the fridge door open. The light buzzed. The milk expired yesterday. I closed the door and sat down. Another message came in 10 minutes later. We'll pay you back, I promise. It's just this one time. Then another. Ethan said you're just being emotional. Please don't take it out on us. That last one did it. I opened my banking app, transferred exactly $1 to her account, and added a note. That's all I've got left. I hit send. For a while, there was nothing. Then the family group chat lit up like a bonfire. First, Ethan. Wow. Real mature. Then Dad. This is how you treat your mother. Then a cousin I hadn't talked to in months chimed in. Hey man, I know times are tough, but family's family. I muted the thread. I didn't block anyone. Just muted it. Let the messages pile up like junk mail on the porch. I didn't need to see them anymore. I knew what they'd say: guilt, shame, subtle digs disguised as concern. The same script over and over. I poured myself a drink and sat on the couch, scrolling through a feed full of strangers smiling over takeout and dogs in sweaters. I didn't feel bad. That surprised me. I thought I would. But all I felt was relief. Because the thing they never understood, maybe never wanted to, was that I had been giving them more than money. I had given them space in my head, my time, my silence. And now they wanted back in. I sipped my drink, turned off my phone, and let the night be quiet. Let them spiral. Let them learn how to scramble without me. For once, the emergency wasn't mine. Clara's dad needed help with a fence. Nothing big, just some garden panels along the side of their house in Turlock. He called on a Saturday morning and asked if I had a drill. That's all. Not, can you come over? Not, can you do it for me? Just, you got a drill? I did. And I had the rest of the afternoon wide open. So I drove over. Clara was already in the backyard pulling weeds. Her little cousin was helping, or trying to, while her dad, Hank, sorted out the lumber in the garage. Ryan, he grinned as I stepped through the gate, perfect timing. He handed me a lemonade and pointed to a couple of posts. We got started without much conversation. Just steady work, comfortable pauses, and the occasional watch your fingers. After the first hour, Clara's mom came outside holding a tray of cornbread and paper towels. You hungry? She asked. Always, I said. She smiled. Made it 'cause Clara said you like it. The sweet kind, not that dry boxed stuff. I blinked. I had mentioned that once. Maybe 2 months ago, passing comment in their kitchen while flipping through TV channels. I didn't think anyone had really heard me. Clara's mom handed me a piece wrapped in a napkin. Eat now. No use feeding boys who pass out on the job. I sat on the porch step, chewing warm cornbread and watching the sky go from gold to gray-blue. The fence was halfway done. Hank was still moving like he had energy to spare. When we finished up around sunset, he wiped his hands on his jeans and said, "Stay for dinner?" I hesitated, out of habit. In my world, staying for dinner meant obligation in exchange. Help fix this, then maybe we'll feed you. But with Hank, it was simple. Of course, he added before I could answer. We've got a full table and Clara says you never eat right. Inside, the dining room smelled like roasted chicken and fresh rolls. Someone put on music, soft old soul tracks, and Clara's younger cousin asked what kind of podcasts I liked on long drives. They wanted to know about me. Not what I earned. Not what I could give. Just me. Midway through the meal, Clara leaned close and whispered, "You okay?" I nodded, but I could feel something weird pressing behind my eyes. Not sadness exactly. Not joy either. More like confusion, like I'd stepped into someone else's life by mistake. Because this family didn't talk in jabs. Nobody at the table rolled their eyes when I spoke. Nobody sighed when I told a boring story about a broken-down rental car and a flat tire in Stockton. Clara's mom packed up leftovers for me. Her dad asked if I wanted to help repaint the shed next weekend. Nobody said I owed them anything. Driving home, my truck smelled like garlic bread and sawdust. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like an intruder. I felt welcome. It was just after 9 when the knock came. I was in sweats, halfway through a rerun of Forged in Fire. Clara curled next to me with her feet tucked under a blanket. I thought maybe it was a neighbor or a package dropped late. But when I opened the door, it was my dad. He stood there in his winter coat, the one he wore when he wanted to look put together, and behind his forced smile, I saw the panic in his eyes. Cold night air rushed past him like it was trying to escape too. "I need to talk," he said. Clara glanced up from the couch, eyebrows raised. I gave her a small nod and stepped outside, pulling the door shut behind me. We stood on the porch in silence for a beat. Then he exhaled, rubbed his hands together, and said, "The bank's threatening to repossess the camper." I blinked. "You live in that thing full time." He nodded, eyes scanning the sidewalk like he was looking for a better version of this moment. "They say we've got 10 days. I need 5,200. I didn't say anything. He looked at me like I was a vending machine that had jammed. "We raised you, Ryan. You know that. Things got tight. You've always been the strong one. The one we could count on. Where's Ethan?" I asked. That threw him off. "Ethan?" he repeated. "Yeah. Your other son. The one with the poker buddies and the new sneakers every month. What's he doing to help?" Dad looked away. "He's at a game night. He doesn't know how bad it is." I folded my arms. "You mean you didn't tell him?" Silence. "He's been through a lot," Dad muttered. I laughed, but there was nothing funny in it. "You're standing on my porch asking for over 5 grand, and the guy who called me a joke in front of the family is playing Texas Hold'em?" Dad looked older than I remembered. Not just tired, hollow. He opened his mouth, then closed it. Then tried again. "This isn't just about us," he said. "It's about keeping the family's way of life." I stared at him for a long time. "You mean the way where I pay, you mock, and Ethan disappears when things get hard?" He said nothing. "I've been your life raft," I said quietly. "But not anymore." I reached for the door, opened it. Dad didn't move. "Please, Ryan," he whispered. "We've got nowhere else to go." "You had me," I said. "And you made a joke out of it." He looked like he might cry, but I didn't flinch. I stepped inside and held the door open just long enough. "Time to float on your own." He didn't argue. Didn't yell. Just turned and walked down the steps, his shoulders heavy, his shadow long and shaking. I shut the door. And I didn't feel sorry. I felt finished. The GoFundMe link showed up in a group text I'd forgotten I was even in. Emergency support for a beloved family losing everything. The thumbnail was a black and white photo of the camper van parked at the edge of some dusty lot, framed like it was a tragic memorial. The caption read, "After a series of unfortunate financial hits, our dear parents are at risk of losing their home. Please help keep this amazing couple safe and sheltered during these hard times. Every dollar counts." No mention of Ethan. No mention of where their money went or why they were in a camper in the first place. Definitely no mention of the thousands I'd covered over the years. It was all vague suffering and dramatic appeals. I scrolled through the comments. "Praying for you guys. I remember those backyard BBQs, such good people. Just donated, stay strong." Every line made my jaw clench tighter. Clara was at the counter unpacking groceries when she noticed me staring at my phone. "What is it?" I turned the screen toward her. She read for a moment, eyebrows lifting. "No mention of you," she said flatly. I nodded. "They make it sound like they just fell into a hole by accident," I said. "Like the past 10 years of mismanaging everything that didn't exist." Clara didn't say anything. She didn't have to. We both knew what this was. It wasn't a fundraiser. It was a campaign. A story for the public to believe in without all the messy parts. A sanitized version where the parents were humble and brave and the only thing standing between them and the street was the kindness of strangers. Not the burned bridges. Not the evictions they caused. Not the son they squeezed until he cracked. I clicked on the donate button. Entered $1. In the comment box, I typed, "All I've got left?" I set it to anonymous and clicked submit. Then I closed the tab. Closed the text thread. Closed the part of me that used to hope they'd ever tell the truth. Because they could paint whatever picture they wanted for the outside world. I wasn't part of it anymore. And I wasn't going to play the villain in someone else's fairy tale. I didn't make a big announcement about cutting ties. There was no dramatic Facebook post or speech. I just stopped showing up. Instead, I started building a different kind of life, the quiet kind, the kind that creeps in and grows in the spaces that used to be filled with stress. It started with the small things. Grocery runs with Clara on Sunday mornings. She'd hum while comparing salad dressings, and I'd tease her about needing to read every label twice. We painted her kitchen cabinets one weekend, a project she'd been putting off for a year. It took 3 days, 2 takeout pizzas, and a playlist of soft rock that made us both laugh when her cat knocked over the paint tray. I liked the rhythm of it. No shouting. No guilt. Just days that came and went, and people who wanted me there without needing anything from me. Clara's younger cousin Nate asked me one afternoon if I could help him build a soapbox car for the local derby. I figured it'd be a couple hours and a few nails. Turned into 4 weekends of measuring, sawing, repainting, and test rides down her parents' sloped driveway. At one point, Nate looked at me and said, "I want to win, but I kinda already feel like I did." I looked up confused. "How's that?" He shrugged. "I didn't think anyone would help me with this." And just like that, I felt something shift. Because I knew that feeling. That quiet hope. That fear of being too much trouble. Hank, Clara's dad, started calling me for small things. Fixing a door hinge, resealing a shed window. Stuff he could probably do himself but didn't mind sharing. He never pressured, never made it sound like a favor I owed. He always asked the same way, "You feel like giving me a hand? Not can you drop everything, not we need you, just a hand." He even started calling me son once in a while, though never directly to me. I'd hear it when he talked to neighbors or Clara's uncles. "Yeah, Ryan's giving me a hand. Good kid. Like a son." No ceremony. No big moment. Just a small, steady recognition I'd never had growing up. The longer I stayed in their world, the more I realized something. I had spent most of my life in survival mode. Doing things out of duty. Out of fear. Out of some twisted hope that love had to be earned through sacrifice. But here? Love just kind of showed up. Clara would pull me in to dance in the living room for no reason. Her aunt dropped off fresh-baked bread just because. Nate gave me a thank you card that said, "You're cooler than my science teacher." It wasn't loud. It wasn't flashy. But it felt like laying bricks. One by one, slow and solid. No holes. No cracks. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't building a fortress to keep pain out. I was building a home to let something real in. It happened at the lake. Clara's family was having one of their big weekend gatherings, a mix of lawn chairs, folding tables, and paper plates stacked with grilled corn and ribs. We were all spread out across the grass near Woodward Reservoir. Kids were racing barefoot to the dock, someone's dog kept stealing hot dogs, and the grown-ups took turns pretending not to care how many beers they were drinking. I was standing near the cooler, half-watching Nate and his cousins skip rocks when Clara's cousin's husband, Dave, came over. "Got a second?" he asked, adjusting his baseball cap. "Sure," I said, brushing barbecue sauce off my hand. We walked a few paces toward the tree line. Nothing serious, just enough distance that it felt a little more private. "I've been meaning to talk to you," he said. "You know I work at Stockton Freight Solutions, right?" I nodded. "Yeah, logistics firm." He smiled. "Right? I've been noticing how you operate. The way you helped Hank with the fencing. Organized Nate's soapbox derby project like a miniature NASCAR team." I chuckled. That was more duct tape than strategy. Dave didn't laugh. He just looked at me, steady and deliberate. "You've got a good head for systems. You manage people without talking down to them. And you don't wait to be told what needs doing. That's rare." I felt my posture shift, the way it always did when someone was about to offer something I wasn't sure I deserved. Dave didn't let it sit long. "We're looking to bring on an operations coordinator. Better hours than what I heard you've been pulling. Real salary. Room to grow." I blinked. "You're offering me a job?" He shrugged, casual. "I'm saying I'd like you to come in next week and meet the team. Talk to my boss. The rest is up to you." For a second, I couldn't say anything. The world just slowed. I had spent so much of my life chasing validation from people who never noticed. And now here was someone offering me a door I hadn't even knocked on. That night, Clara and I sat on the hood of my truck, parked just off the dirt lot facing the lake. The sun had dipped below the trees and the sky was streaked with orange and blue. I told her everything. She didn't gasp or tear up or say something dramatic. She just smiled like she'd known all along. "Told you they'd notice," she said, resting her head on my shoulder. And in that moment, with the cool breeze off the water and her hand in mine, I realized something simple but huge. For the first time, my life wasn't happening out of obligation. It was happening because people saw me. And I saw myself too. The text came on a Wednesday night, just after I got out of the shower. Clara was on the couch, wrapped in a blanket with her glasses sliding down her nose, doing the crossword. I was towel drying my hair when my phone buzzed on the counter. Ethan, since you always got the good stuff growing up, you can spot me on this. Think of it as back pay. Attached was a screenshot of a gaming console on sale. Discounted to $499. I stood there for a second, just staring at it. Like my phone had glitched and showed me something from 10 years ago. Back pay? For what? For the years I skipped outings to pick him up from school when mom forgot? For the cell phone bills I covered since he was 19? For the time I paid off his court fines before he lost his license, the same license he used to drive drunk a month later? I opened my banking app. Sent $1. Caption: even this is too generous. I hit send. Then I blocked the number. Deleted the thread. And that was that. No dramatic goodbye. No argument. No guilt. Just a clean break, long overdue. I walked back into the living room, sat next to Clara, and pulled the blanket over my lap. She looked up from the puzzle. Everything okay? I nodded, then shook my head a little. Ethan texted. Asked for money. Her brow furrowed. What did you do? Sent him $1, I said. And I blocked him. She didn't say anything for a moment. Then she reached out and took my hand. Later that night, while we were getting ready for bed, she asked softly, do you miss them? I stood at the sink, toothbrush paused in my mouth. The question sat heavy for a second. I miss the version of them I thought existed, I said. Clara nodded. That's fair. Because I did. I missed the fantasy, the one where we were a normal family. Where the ribbing was playful, not sharp. Where I was the older brother, not the financial plan. Where holidays didn't end in awkward silences or whispered mockery. But that version was a ghost. And I was done chasing it. I climbed into bed, pulled the covers up, and stared at the ceiling while Clara turned off the lamp. The house was quiet. Our house. And in that stillness, something finally clicked. I had spent decades trying to fix something that was never whole. I kept patching holes in a sinking ship, hoping it would turn into a home. But it never was. This was. A woman who baked cornbread because I liked it. A kid who built a soapbox car with me. A man who noticed how I worked and thought it meant something. This was the version of life I never knew I could have. And I wasn't giving it up for anything.